Motorcycle crashes have produced some of the most tragic moments in motorsport history, often leaving a lasting impact on fans, teams, and safety regulations. Over the decades, several high-profile riders have lost their lives in incidents that were both sudden and devastating, highlighting the extreme risks associated with high-speed racing. These events are remembered not for spectacle, but for the sobering reminders they provide about safety, control, and the fine line between skill and danger. From professional circuits to lesser-known competitions, these crashes have shaped the evolution of protective gear, track design, and medical response in motorsport worldwide today, globally. There are some moments in motorsport that feel less like races and more like sudden heavy pauses in time, and the 2011 Malaysian Grand Prix became exactly that when Marco Simoncelli took to the track at the Sepang International Circuit, a place usually filled with speed, noise, and adrenaline, but soon remembered for something far more somber. Simoncelli was known for his fearless riding style, the kind that made fans sit forward and rivals stay alert. And on that day, nothing seemed out of place as the race began with its usual intensity. Just a couple of laps in, everything changed in a way that no one watching could have anticipated. Coming through turn 11, he lost control of his bike, a moment that in racing is often dramatic yet recoverable, as something riders train for and often manage to escape with skill and composure, relying on instinct built over years of pushing limits at incredible speeds. But this time, the situation unfolded differently, and that difference proved devastating. Instead of sliding harmlessly away, the bike suddenly regained grip mid-slide and pulled back toward the racing line, placing Simoncelli directly in the path of oncoming riders. In a sport where decisions are made in fractions of a second, there was no time to react. Colin Edwards and Valentino Rossi were right behind him, approaching at high speed with no real opportunity to avoid the collision. The impact was violent and deeply distressing, and in that instant his helmet was dislodged, leaving him critically exposed. The race was immediately stopped, and what had moments earlier been a competitive contest turned into a scene of urgency and disbelief as medical teams rushed to assist. The atmosphere shifted completely, the roar of engines replaced by an overwhelming silence that spread across the circuit and among viewers around the world. A silence that felt heavy and unreal. Despite the rapid response, the injuries were too severe, and news of his passing soon followed, leaving the racing community in shock. He was only 24 years old, an age where careers are still growing and possibilities seem endless, which made the loss feel even more profound. Simoncelli was more than a talented rider. He had a distinct personality, a recognizable presence, and a passion that connected him to fans and fellow competitors alike. His death deeply affected those close to him, especially Valentino Rossi, and it led to renewed discussions about safety in the sport, including helmet security and rider protection. Even with continuous improvements, moments like this serve as a reminder that motorsport carries risks that can never be completely removed. The incident remains one of the most haunting in MotoGP history, not because it lasted long, but because of how quickly everything changed and how lasting the impact became, leaving behind a silence that still echoes whenever his name is remembered, a quiet reminder of both the beauty and danger of racing. The 1973 Italian Grand Prix at Monza remains one of the most devastating moments in motorcycle racing history, marked by the tragic loss of Jarno Saarinen and Renzo Pasolini in a catastrophic multi-rider crash. The race had barely begun when something went wrong on the high-speed circuit, most likely a sudden oil spill or mechanical failure from a bike ahead. As riders entered the fast section, traction disappeared almost instantly, turning a routine race start into chaos. Saarinen, widely regarded as one of the most talented and technically gifted riders of his era, had no chance to react as his bike was caught in the slick patch. Behind him, other competitors were equally helpless, creating a chain reaction pileup that unfolded in seconds but felt like an eternity to witnesses. The impact was severe, and both Saarinen and Pasolini suffered fatal injuries, dying at the scene. What made the incident even more shocking was the fact that these were not inexperienced riders. They were elite competitors at the peak of their careers, pushing the limits of speed and control. The race was immediately stopped, and the atmosphere at Monza shifted from competitive intensity to disbelief and grief. In the aftermath, questions arose about the safety standards of the circuit, particularly its suitability for motorcycle racing at such high speeds. Monza, known for its long straights and minimal runoff areas at the time, came under intense scrutiny, and the tragedy became a turning point in how governing bodies viewed rider safety and responsibility. Investigations debated the exact cause, with theories ranging from oil leakage to engine failure, but no explanation could undo the devastation. The event led to Monza being removed from the motorcycle Grand Prix calendar for years, and forced the sport to confront the reality that speed alone could not define racing without adequate safety measures. Over time, this incident contributed to gradual but important reforms in track design, barrier placement, and emergency response protocols. Even decades later, the memory of that day continues to resonate within the motorsport community, serving as a somber reminder of how quickly racing glory can turn into tragedy when conditions on the track fail to hold. In the years that followed, the tragedy was repeatedly studied by safety experts who pointed out how limited protection, poor runoff design, and lack of real-time hazard detection made high-speed circuits especially dangerous during that era. It also highlighted how quickly a single technical failure or surface contamination could escalate into a multi-rider disaster for many within the racing community. Monza 1973 became a reference point whenever discussions about circuit safety, rider risk, and regulatory responsibility were raised, shaping decades of policy changes in international motorcycle competition. The legacy of Saarinen, in particular, remained deeply influential, as his talent and promise were often cited as an example of what the sport lost that day, reinforcing the urgency for meaningful reform rather than symbolic change. Today, the Monza incident is still remembered not only as a moment of grief, but also as a turning point that helped reshape modern motorcycle racing into a safer and more regulated sport. Weeks after the crash, the removal of Monza from the Grand Prix calendar signaled a broader shift in priorities, where rider safety began to take precedence over pure speed and tradition in track selection decisions. This shift did not happen overnight. In 1935, the world was still getting used to how fast motorcycles could really go, and how quickly that speed could turn from thrilling to tragic when something unexpected appeared on a quiet road. It was during this era that one of the most famous early motorcycle accidents in history took place involving T.E. Lawrence, better known as Lawrence of Arabia, riding near his home in Dorset. He was on his beloved Bro Superior SS100, a machine known for its incredible speed and engineering excellence, when a sudden and ordinary moment of chaos changed everything. Two boys on bicycles reportedly appeared in his path, and in a split-second decision to avoid them, he swerved sharply, a reaction that would ultimately lead to disaster, and one of the most talked-about motorcycle incidents of the early 20th century. He lost control of the motorcycle, was thrown from the machine, and suffered severe head injuries at a time when helmets were not part of standard riding gear, meaning even a relatively survivable crash could become fatal quickly. He was rushed to hospital and remained unconscious for several days, with doctors doing everything they could, but medical science at the time did not have the tools or techniques to deal with such severe brain trauma, and he never recovered, passing away shortly after. What makes this story so widely remembered is not just the crash itself, but who he was, a legendary military figure, writer, and adventurer whose life already felt larger than fiction, so his sudden death on a motorcycle turned into global news and a lasting cultural memory. He had a known passion for motorcycles and often rode them for peace, solitude, and escape from public attention, as something he enjoyed so deeply became the setting of his final moment. The road where the accident happened was narrow and quiet, typical of English countryside lanes that were never designed for high-speed machines like his powerful motorcycle. And when you think about it, the whole situation feels like a perfect storm of speed, surprise, and timing that no amount of skill could fully overcome. In the days following the crash, news spread quickly, and people around the world reacted with shock, because he was not just another rider, but a living historical figure whose stories had already become legendary. His death also quietly became part of motorcycling history, often referenced as an early and sobering example of how dangerous high-speed motorcycling could be in an age before modern safety equipment. Over time, his story has been retold in books, documentaries, and motorcycle culture discussions, where it serves as a reminder of early riding risks and the importance of protective gear. Today, many enthusiasts still visit Clouds Hill, reflecting on his life and final journey, while his motorcycle remains an iconic symbol of engineering and speed. The story continues to resonate because it sits at the intersection of history, technology, and human vulnerability, showing how even the most skilled individuals remain exposed to unpredictable road conditions. In reflecting on Lawrence's death, it is not merely the drama of the crash that stands out, but the broader lesson it represents about the limits of control, the evolution of transportation safety, and the fragile boundary between mastery of a machine and the uncontrollable variables of the environment, in discussions about risk, technology, and human vulnerability on the road. Daijiro Kato's accident at Suzuka in 2003 remains one of the most significant and sobering incidents in modern MotoGP history, not only because of the tragedy itself, but because of the lasting impact it had on rider safety and circuit design. The crash occurred during the opening round of the 2003 MotoGP season at the Suzuka circuit in Japan, a track known for its technical layout but also for limited runoff areas in certain high-speed sections. Kato, riding for Honda in front of his home crowd, was pushing competitively when he lost control of his bike at very high speed, approaching the Casio Triangle section. The machine entered a violent slide before striking the barriers with extreme force. The nature of the impact caused catastrophic injuries, including severe trauma to the head, chest, and spine. He was immediately treated at the circuit and later transferred to hospital, where he remained in a coma for nearly 2 weeks before passing away on April 20, 2003. His condition and eventual death deeply affected the MotoGP community, as Kato was widely regarded as one of Japan's most talented and promising riders, with a racing style that combined precision, aggression, and consistency. Beyond the personal loss, the incident prompted serious scrutiny of Suzuka's safety standards. At the time, several sections of the circuit were considered inadequate for modern premier-class motorcycle racing, particularly in terms of runoff space and barrier placement, highlighted how little margin for error existed in certain areas of the track when combined with the extreme speeds of MotoGP machinery. In the aftermath, discussions among teams, riders, and governing bodies intensified regarding whether Suzuka was suitable for continued use in top-level motorcycle racing. This eventually contributed to the circuit being removed from the MotoGP calendar for the premier class, as the sport moved toward venues that could better accommodate evolving safety expectations. The broader significance of Kato's accident lies in how it influenced the direction of MotoGP safety reforms. In the years that followed, there was a stronger emphasis on expanding runoff zones, improving barrier technology such as air fences, and conducting more rigorous safety evaluations before approving circuits for competition. His crash became part of a series of incidents that collectively reshaped how the sport approaches risk management. While MotoGP will always involve inherent danger due to the nature of high-speed racing, the standards applied today regarding circuit design and rider protection were strengthened in part due to lessons learned from events like Suzuka 2003. Today, Daijiro Kato is remembered not only for his achievements on track, including his 250c World Championship title in 2001, but also for the lasting influence his accident had on the sport. His legacy is often referenced in safety discussions as a reminder of the consequences that can arise when speed, track design, and minimal margins intersect under race conditions. In this sense, his story occupies an important place in MotoGP history, marking a point where the sport was forced to reassess and improve its approach to safety in a more systematic and urgent way. His case is still studied within MotoGP safety research today, especially when evaluating historical crashes and comparing them with modern standards. It is also frequently referenced in discussions about how rider feedback has shaped track redesign decisions over time. Many riders who raced during that era have spoken about how incidents like Kato's changed their perception of risk and encouraged stronger advocacy for safer circuits. Even now, his name is mentioned with respect in the paddock, not for the circumstances of his passing, but for the role his story played in improving safety conditions for future generations of riders. This lasting impact ensures that his legacy remains an important part of MotoGP's ongoing evolution. Jason Dupasier's accident at Mugello in 2021 remains one of the most heartbreaking moments in recent Moto3 history, not because it was unusual for motorcycle racing, but because it involved a young rider whose career was just beginning to take shape and whose presence in the paddock was widely admired. The incident occurred during qualifying for the Italian Grand Prix at the Mugello circuit, a track known for its high-speed flowing layout and extremely demanding corners, especially the Arrabbiata sequence where riders carry immense speed while maintaining razor-thin margins for error. During this session, Dupasier lost control of his bike while approaching the fast section, an area where multiple riders were closely spaced due to the nature of qualifying laps. After the initial crash, he came to rest on the track in a vulnerable position, and unfortunately, the situation escalated when other riders arriving at high speed were unable to avoid the aftermath completely. He was subsequently struck in the incident involving Ayumu Sasaki and Jeremy Alcoba. What followed highlighted both the dangers inherent in motorcycle racing and the efficiency of modern MotoGP medical protocols. The circuit's medical team reached him quickly and provided intensive on-track care for an extended period before he was airlifted to Careggi University Hospital in Florence. Reports confirmed that he suffered severe head and chest injuries, and despite undergoing surgery and receiving critical care in the hospital, the news sent shockwaves throughout the MotoGP community, with riders, teams, and fans expressing a shared sense of grief that transcended competition. The paddock observed tributes throughout the race weekend, with many riders dedicating their performances to him, and moments of silence were held in his honor. Beyond the immediate tragedy, the incident sparked renewed discussion about safety in motorcycle racing, particularly in Moto3, where close racing, slipstreaming, and dense packs of riders often create unpredictable and high-risk situations. While MotoGP has made continuous improvements in protective gear, circuit safety, and medical response over the years, Dupasier's accident served as a reminder that the sport still carries inherent dangers that cannot be fully eliminated. Analysts and commentators pointed to the importance of track positioning awareness during qualifying sessions and the difficulty of avoiding fallen riders when visibility is limited and speeds are extremely high. However, it was also widely acknowledged that the circumstances of the crash were highly complex and not attributable to a single error or factor. In the aftermath, MotoGP and FIM officials reviewed safety protocols and continued long-term discussions about rider spacing, flag procedures, and circuit design improvements, especially in high-speed sections like Mugello. While no immediate single change could undo what happened, the event reinforced the ongoing responsibility of the sport's governing bodies to minimize risk wherever possible. For fans and fellow riders, however, the most lasting impact was emotional. Jason Dupasier was remembered not only as a competitor, but as a respectful, hard-working young athlete who represented the next generation of racing talent. His passing remains a solemn reminder that behind the speed, technology, and spectacle of MotoGP, there are human lives and families deeply affected by every moment on track, and that respect for the sport must always include an understanding of its risks.